Afternoon, welcome back to Football League World TV. It's time for another episode of The Debate, and here we're looking at three League Two players that could decide the playoff race in the fourth division. I'm your host, George Dagless, this afternoon, and joining me are Marcus Ally and Ben Wignall. Marcus, how are you?
Yeah, really well, thanks, George. I'm really enjoying this sort of section of the season and building up towards that final sort of 10 block of fixtures. Excited to talk about some good players and some sides that have sort of sprung up on the radar in League Two this season. I'm sure it's going to be a hell of a climax in the next few months.
Certainly should be. Ben, how you getting on?
Yeah, all good. League Two is not really a league I get to delve into too much, but you're keeping a close eye on the promotion race. Obviously, Forest Green are very much clear at the top, although they've been slipping up in the last few weeks. But the playoff race looks to be alive and well, and I'm looking forward to talking about some of the key players that might decide the four places.
Yeah, certainly some good players that could make all the difference in the final weeks of the League Two campaign. League Two fans, get in touch with us across Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for the next 20 or so minutes. Let us know which players you think are going to make the key difference between now and the end of the campaign. So we're running over three players that we think are going to be key in the League Two playoff fight. Ben, we'll come to one of your picks first. So Louis Barry at Swindon Town. What's the thinking behind that one?
Well, I think we all know he's got a lot of talent. You know, if you're a 16-year-old being plucked away by Barcelona from West Brom, you've got to have something about you. Obviously, he came back to England after a year with Aston Villa, and we saw what he could do against Liverpool in that cup game where a lot of youth players were playing, and Jurgen Klopp picked him out as a real live wire. Obviously, he went to Ipswich at the start of the season. It didn't quite work out from there. You know, they brought in a lot of attacking options, Ipswich, and Barry didn't really get his chance. And when he did, he might have looked a little bit lightweight. And I think he just needed a manager and a team that kind of trusted him. And Villa have found the team in Swindon who they can trust with youth players. Obviously, Kane Kessler went there in the first half of the season. He's now at MK Dons, but he really kicked on at Swindon. I think Louis Barry's already done that. He's scored 3 goals in 6 appearances. Ben Garner likes to, his players to play the right way on the floor. And I think Swindon just needed someone to, ease the scoring burden off Harry McCurdy. He's been quite prolific this season, and with Tyrese Simpson going back to Ipswich, I think they needed one or two players to ease the burden off him. Obviously, Josh Davison's coming in and done that as well, but I think Barry's a really exciting player, very direct, and I think he probably is going to the top, and this loan spell could be one that gets him maybe a championship move next season, and 2, he could be a key difference between now and the end of the season in Swindon. Maybe not even just getting the playoffs, but maybe automatic promotion, because I don't think they're out of that race either.
Marcus, what do you think of Louis Barry? He's a talented young player, isn't he? That, as Ben mentioned, seems to be relishing the opportunity he's got at Swindon.
Yeah, definitely. I think live wire is the perfect way to describe him. Really, the type of football that Swindon play seems to really work with him. His game style, getting in at the back post for one of his goals. He's got 3 already since joining in January. Just 18 years of age. It's easy to catch the eye just by looking at his goal numbers lately. But he's a creative threat as well. Hasn't registered an assist as yet, but certainly threatened to. I think it was 7 shot assists in his last 3 games. And all of those being starts as well. So it does help that attacking contingent, which, as Ben hinted towards, definitely needed addressing after losing Simpson, but also Kessler, who was a big threat from right wing back for quite a lot of the first half of the campaign. So it's a really smart bit of business. It would have been easy to maybe disregard Barry for this season just because of his age and the way that in a tricky environment he struggled to break in at Portman Road. But yeah, credit to Swindon for bringing him in, and he's definitely had a positive impact in taking them closer. Although they're just outside the playoffs at the minute, they do rank 7th on points per game, and I wouldn't say automatic promotion's over yet either. League Two is definitely a league where we're going to see those 4 positions, or you could argue probably even those 6 positions behind Forest Green, change a lot before the end of the season, and Barry could definitely go on to have a big say on that if he's able to continue sustain the performance level that he's already shown.
Certainly looks a real talent, doesn't he, for the next few years. That's Louis Barry that could have potential impact in the playoff race. Swindon fans will obviously be hoping that that's the case. Marcus, let's come to your pick for player number 2 on the debate show. Who is it and why?
So it's David Adjiboye of Sutton. I feel like I mention him whenever we talk about League Two, but he's one of my favourite players to watch in the 4th division. Sutton, what a story this season. Hoping to cement a place in the playoffs initially and possibly even look for a top 3 spot in the final weeks of the season. He's just 23 years old, 7 goals and 2 assists in the league this season. His form has slowed up a touch for Matt Gray's side, just 2 goal involvements in his last 11 games. But I'm putting that just down to the fixture schedule. To be honest, he does start week in, week out, whether there's a quick turnaround or not. And I think his form will turn around towards the end of the season. He's still been getting in dangerous positions in that time. And Sutton have got some huge matches against teams around them where they are going to need their best players to stand up and be counted. They've still got Swindon, Port Vale, Tranmere, Newport and Mansfield Town to play before we potentially reach the playoffs. And Adjiboye is such a big player in terms of the way that Sutton play as well. That he's so dangerous in transition. His pace does stand out as an attribute compared to other players at League Two level. But he definitely makes other clubs and the opposition sit back, which gives Sutton a little bit more space. They've lost just 1 in their last 15 matches, and I think the threat that they pose on the break due to the likes of Adjiboye and Isaac Alafe and other players in the side is a contributing factor in that. So Adjiboye's had such a good season, and I think he can get back on an upward trajectory in this final stretch and really come good to see Sutton keep the likes of Port Vale and Swindon from just outside at bay and book their spot in the top 7.
He's certainly a player that's really, impressed this year in League Two, particularly with the way Sutton have gone about their business in the Football League after coming back at the start of the season. Ben, what have you made of Adjiboye's performances?
I think he's been really good. He's got that kind of academy pedigree. He was at Brighton for a few years as a youngster, but I think he's been like one of the the non-league success stories. Sutton, when they were still in the National League, got him from Worthing, and he was a quite prolific scorer from out wide for them. And he's kind of like seamlessly slotted into EFL action pretty well. Even though he's kind of goal scoring's tailed off, he's not scored, I think, in his last 6 or 7, but his impact's clear to see. There was a game earlier in the season where he kind of scored 2 identical goals, cutting in from the wing and just slamming them in. And I think he's a player, if Sutton don't get promoted, I know they've got a very good chance this season, and probably to the surprise of many, they've come straight up and made the impact. But I think Adjiboye at the age of 23, he's still got his best years ahead of him. I think he could be destined for a move up the leagues. He's like any wing in League Two, he's probably going to be inconsistent, but he's definitely shown these flashes of brilliance where he's been a match winner, and I think he could be a match winner in many more games coming in the next few months.
Certainly looks a player that Sutton may well be relying on to fire them potentially into League One. Ben, let's come to the 3rd player on this debate show. He's one of your picks. Who is it and why?
Well, Matt Smith's a player that I'm shocked that's dropped down to League Two. In January there was rumours that he might leave Millwall, and I think we were all expecting him to probably maybe get a top club in League One. He wasn't playing much for Millwall. He was coming off the bench a lot. He rarely started. When he did start, he did score earlier in the season against Nottingham Forest, so that suggested that he could still make an impact in the Championship, even though he's in his 30s. But to drop to League Two for Salford, I thought that was a really eye-catching signing. In January, there was like Wigan and Portsmouth that were linked with him, but Salford do have that financial muscle to bring him in. And I was concerned, to be fair, that he probably couldn't play, Tuesday, Saturday, with the lack of minutes he's been having at the Den. But he's featured in every single game so far. He's pretty much played 90 minutes for most of them, and he's only scored 1 goal in 7 games. But I think it's more what he brings to the team more than anything than goals. I think he can have a real good partnership with Brandon Thomas Asante. It's kind of that big man, little man partnership that you want at that level if you're playing 4-4-2, which Salford at the minute are. And the form's going in a good direction, to be fair. They've won 3 of the last 4 games. Smith's played in all of them. And I just think a player of his experience and, some big League Two defenders, and he should be able to get the better of most of his experience and his physique. So I think Salford have got a really good striker on the hands for the rest of the season. I don't know how next season, if they do get promoted, will he be, a starting figure? I'm not sure, but he's definitely landed on his feet at Salford. He can be the main man there, bring others into play, and the form speaks for itself. In the last few weeks with him up front, they've been playing really well. So I think Smith could potentially score a few goals between now and the end of the season, but it'll be his general all-round play that I think will drag Salford into the playoffs if they get there.
Marcus Matt Smith is, a player that, as Ben mentioned, is always, quite surprising to see someone drop down a couple of divisions sort of in one fell swoop. That's what he did. As Ben mentioned as well, just a one goal so far for Salford, but his all-round play and link-up play is probably what the Ammies really wanted to sign him for. I guess if he can add some more goals between now and the end of the season, could potentially fire Salford into League One.
Yeah, I think with a player like Max Smith, sometimes it's what the stats don't show that is what they're really going to be adding to the team. 32 years of age, and what he's been through in his career trumps the vast majority of that squad. And I think if they are able to break into the playoffs, still got a way to go, 6 points off with 14 matches to go. He's going to have a huge influence in the dressing room, in those high pressure moments, and hopefully from their point of view, leading the way to at least get them into those positions, which they've been longing for it's their third season in League Two this term, and they've all been a carbon copy, really, just sort of in the top half, but not quite having enough to break into those playoff places. Brandon Thomas Asante has been a player that's threatened to really go on a really impressive run in the last couple of seasons with Salford, but he hasn't really been able to find that consistency to his game, which when you see him play, the ability it is really clear. Some of the goals that he's scored this season have been very impressive, and if Matt Smith is a player to occupy defenders, create spaces for him to exploit, they've got Conor McAlhaney on the periphery at the moment as well, who has struggled this season but has shown that he's got the pedigree at the level. There's types of players that can thrive off a player like Matt Smith in the team. So, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm not expecting him to score loads of goals, but I am expecting him to contribute and at least take Salford as close as they can to breaking into the top 7 before the end of the season.
Yeah, okay. That's 3 players we picked in that could help decide the League Two playoff race. Louis Barry, David Ajiboye and Matt Smith. Fans of the clubs that they play for will obviously be hoping they can have a positive impact between now and the end of the season. That's it for Football League One TV today. 2 shows coming up tomorrow. The betting show at 10 a.m. with Sam Rourke hosting that one. Ned Holmes and Ben will be joining him. And then at 3 o'clock is the weekend preview. Alfie Burns is hosting that one. He's joined by Chris Gallagher and Billy Mully. Ben, Marcus, great to get your thoughts this afternoon on 3 League Two players that could make all the difference between now and the end of the campaign. And before we go, just a quick plug for Football League One TV. If you can like the video on YouTube and subscribe to the channel as well, that would be much appreciated by all of us here at Football League World. But from myself, Marcus and Ben, it's bye for now.